Zara Chen stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around the massive station floating in space. Kepler Station was bigger than any city she had ever seen on Earth. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Strange creatures walked past her in the hallways. Some looked like giant insects, others were made of what seemed like colored gas. And some were so weird she could not even describe them. She was the first human to ever attend the Galactic Academy. The school had been around for 500 years, and it was where the smartest kids from all over the galaxy came to learn. Zara felt excited but also nervous. She had worked hard to get here, but she was not sure if she belonged. A tall, thin creature with purple skin and 4 arms approached her. "You must be the human," it said in perfect English, though its voice sounded like music. "I am Assistant Dean Kohler. Welcome to the Academy." "Thanks," Zara said, shifting her backpack. "This place is amazing." "Indeed. Please follow me for orientation." As they walked through the halls, Kohler explained the rules. Students must bow to professors. They must wait to be spoken to before speaking. They must follow the daily schedule exactly. No changes were allowed. No questions during lectures unless given permission. No mixing between different species during meals. "Why so many rules?" Zara asked. Kohler stopped walking and looked at her with all 4 eyes. "The Academy has operated successfully for centuries because of order and tradition. Each species has its place and purpose. The Vorthak remember everything perfectly. The Nebulans think faster than anyone else. The Chitauri work together as one mind. Humans," Kohler paused. "We are not sure what humans do yet." They entered a huge dining hall filled with hundreds of students. Each species sat at their own tables. The crystal beings sat perfectly still, their bodies glowing as they shared memories directly with each other. The gas creatures floated above their tables, swirling together in complex patterns that seemed to be their way of talking. The insect-like Chitauri moved in perfect unison, all reaching for food at the exact same time. "Where do I sit?" Zara asked. "Humans have their own table," Kohler said, pointing to a small table in the corner with just 1 chair. Zara frowned. "That looks lonely." "Humans work alone," Kohler said. "It is your nature," but Zara did not want to sit alone. As soon as Kohler left, she picked up her tray and walked over to a table where some young crystal beings were sitting. They looked surprised when she sat down. "Hi," she said. "I'm Zara. Mind if I join you?" The crystals flickered different colors, which seemed to be how they showed emotion. One of them, whose body was pale blue, spoke carefully. "Humans do not sit with Vorthak." "Says who?" Zara asked, taking a bite of her food. "It tasted like chicken but was bright green." "Says tradition," another crystal said, this one purple. "Well, I'm new here, so I don't know all the traditions yet. What are you guys talking about?" The blue crystal, who introduced himself as Zex, explained they were discussing their quantum mathematics homework. Each species had different classes based on what they were good at. The Vorthak studied memory and data storage. The Nebulans learned advanced physics. The Chitauri focused on group problem solving. "What do humans study?" the purple crystal asked. "I don't know yet," Zara said. "What's quantum mathematics like?" For the next hour, Zara listened as the Vorthak explained their homework. They could remember every number and equation perfectly, but they struggled to understand why some formulas worked and others did not. Zara found herself asking questions and making suggestions. "What if you tried this approach?" she said, sketching an idea on a napkin. "Instead of memorizing each formula separately, what if you looked for patterns between them?" The crystals flickered excitedly. Zex worked through Zara's suggestion and found it actually helped him understand the lesson better. "This is very interesting," Zex said. "Vorthak do not usually think about patterns. We focus on perfect memory." "Everyone's got different strengths," Zara said. "Maybe that's why we're all here together." By the end of the meal, a small crowd had gathered around their table. Students from different species were listening to Zara explain her pattern recognition approach. Some looked confused, others seemed fascinated. A few professors had noticed and were watching from across the room. The next morning, Zara's first class was Advanced Galactic History with Professor Thane, a massive creature that looked like a cross between an elephant and a tree. The classroom was arranged with each species in separate sections. Humans were supposed to sit in the back corner, but when Professor Thane began his lecture about the Great Trade Wars, Zara raised her hand. "Excuse me," she said. The entire class turned to stare at her. Professor Thane's trunk-like appendages swayed in what might have been surprise. Students do not speak during lectures without permission, Professor Thane said. Oh, sorry. May I have permission to ask a question? Professor Thane looked uncertain. Very well. You said the trade wars started because of resource disputes, but what about the cultural factors? I mean, if different species have different values about property and sharing, wouldn't that cause problems even if there were enough resources? The professor's trunk swayed more rapidly. This was clearly not the type of question he usually got. That is, an interesting perspective. However, the established historical analysis focuses on economic factors. But don't you think it's worth considering other angles? Zara continued. History is about understanding why things happened, right? So shouldn't we look at all the possible reasons? A buzz of conversation started throughout the classroom. Some students seemed interested in Zara's questions. Others looked uncomfortable with this break from normal routine. Professor Thane raised one of his thick arms for silence. The curriculum has been carefully designed over centuries. We follow established methods. I'm not saying the methods are wrong, Zara said. I'm just wondering if maybe there's more than one right way to look at things. After class, several students approached Zara in the hallway. A young Nebulan, whose gaseous form was a swirling mix of orange and yellow, floated beside her. Your questions in class were very unusual, the Nebulan said. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Unusual how? Zara asked. You questioned the professor. You suggested different ideas. Most students accept what they are taught. Don't you ever wonder about things? Zara asked. Nebulans process information very quickly, the creature said. We find answers fast. We do not often wonder. But wondering is fun, Zara said. It's how you discover new things. By the end of her first week, Zara had somehow managed to break several unwritten rules. She sat with different species at meals. She asked questions in every class. She suggested changes to the dormitory's room assignment system. She even organized an impromptu study group that included students from 5 different species. The study group was working well until they met in the dining hall during off hours. What started as a discussion about homework turned into a debate about different learning styles. The debate got louder and more animated. Soon, food was flying as students tried to demonstrate their points with visual aids. When the cleaning crew found green nutritional paste on the ceiling, and students from different species actually laughing together, they knew something unprecedented had happened. Word reached Dean Vextar within hours. The first human student had started a food fight. More importantly, she had gotten students from different species to participate in it together. This was going to be a problem. Dean Vextar was not happy. The large reptilian creature paced behind his desk, his scales shifting from dark green to an angry red color. In his 300 years at the academy, he had never dealt with a student like the human. She has been here for exactly 9 days, he said to Assistant Dean Kohler, who stood nervously by the door. 9 days and she has already disrupted 4 classes, caused a food fight, and somehow convinced students from 7 different species to study together. The study group results were actually quite impressive, Kohler said carefully. Test scores improved across all participants. Dean Vextar's scales turned a darker shade of red. That is not the point. The Academy operates on order, structure, tradition. Each species has evolved to excel in specific areas. We do not mix them because mixing leads to chaos. But sir, the improvement in learning outcomes is irrelevant, Dean Vextar snapped. What matters is stability. For 500 years, this academy has produced the galaxy's finest minds by following proven methods. I will not allow one human child to destroy centuries of careful tradition. There was a knock at the door. Enter, Dean Vextar called. Zara Chen walked in, looking around the office with curious eyes. The walls were covered with portraits of previous deans and awards from various galactic organizations. A large window showed the stars outside the station. Cool office, Zara said. That's a nice view. Dean Vextar's eye ridge twitched. Even now, facing disciplinary action, the human showed no proper respect. She should be nervous, apologetic, maybe even frightened. Instead, she seemed genuinely interested in his office decorations. Sit down, he said, pointing to a chair in front of his desk. Zara sat and looked at him expectantly. So what's up? What's up, Dean Vextar repeated slowly, is that you have caused more disruption in 9 days than most students cause in their entire academic career. Really? Zara seemed pleased rather than concerned. What kind of disruptions? You questioned Professor Thane's lecture methodology. You reorganized the dormitory environmental system without permission. You initiated unauthorized interspecies social interactions. And you caused a food fight in the dining hall? Okay, the food fight was an accident, Zara said. I was just trying to show how different species learn differently. And things got a little out of hand. But the environmental system thing actually worked better than the old way. Ask anyone on level 5. That is not the point, Dean Vextar said, his voice rising. You cannot simply change systems that have worked for centuries. But if they can work better, why not change them? Zara asked. Isn't the goal to make things as good as possible? Dean Vextar stood up, his full height making him tower over the small human. The goal is order, stability, each species knowing their place and fulfilling their purpose. You have disrupted that order. I've just been trying to help, Zara said. The Vorthak understand math better when they see patterns. The Nebulans work better when they slow down sometimes. The Chitauri can think individually if they want to. These aren't bad things. They are changes, Dean Vextar said. And unauthorized changes threaten the entire system. He walked around his desk to stand in front of Zara. You have left me no choice. Effective immediately, you are sentenced to detention in sublevel 7. You will remain there until you learn to follow Academy rules without question. How long is that supposed to take? Zara asked. However long it takes, Dean Vextar replied. Sublevel 7 is an abandoned section of the station. You will have basic life support, food delivery, and educational materials. You will have no contact with other students until you demonstrate that you can follow proper Academy protocols. Kohler looked uncomfortable. Sir, indefinite solitary confinement might be considered harsh for a juvenile. The decision is made, Dean Vextar said firmly. Perhaps isolation will teach her what interaction with others has not. 2 security guards, both members of a species that looked like walking rocks, entered the office. Dean Vextar nodded to them. Escort student Chen to sublevel 7, section C, room 117. See that she has basic necessities, then seal the door. As the guards flanked her, Zara stood up and shouldered her backpack. Can I bring my books? You will be provided with standard educational materials, Dean Vextar said. What about my tools? Tools? My multi-tool, my tablet, some cables, stuff like that. I like to tinker with things when I'm thinking. Dean Vextar almost smiled. The human would have nothing to tinker with in sublevel 7. The rooms there were bare and simple. Standard Academy supplies only. Okay, Zara said. She didn't seem upset or scared. If anything, she looked thoughtful. Sublevel 7. That's near the old maintenance areas, right? You will not be accessing maintenance areas, Dean Vextar said quickly. The room is isolated and secure. Got it, Zara said. As she reached the door, she turned back. Dean Vextar, why are you so afraid of change? The question caught him off guard. I am not afraid. I am responsible for maintaining order. Same thing, isn't it, Zara said. You're so worried about keeping things the way they are that you can't see if there's a better way. Before Dean Vextar could respond, the guards escorted her out. The trip to sublevel 7 took 20 minutes through corridors that became progressively older and more worn. The walls down here were plain metal instead of the crystal surfaces in the main academy. The lights were dimmer, and Zara could hear the hum of machinery from behind the walls. Room 117 was exactly what Dean Vextar had described. It was a simple rectangular space with gray walls, a basic bed, a desk, a chair, and a small food dispenser. There was one light panel in the ceiling and a basic environmental control panel by the door. Your meals will be delivered automatically, one of the guards said. Educational materials are in the desk drawer. The door will unlock when Dean Vextar determines you are ready to rejoin the student body. Thanks, Zara said. This is actually pretty nice, quiet. The guards looked at each other uncertainly. Most students would be crying or begging to be released. This human seemed almost pleased. After they left and the door sealed with a soft hiss, Zara set her backpack down and looked around the room more carefully. She walked to each wall, running her hands along the surfaces. She examined the environmental control panel, the food dispenser, and the light fixture. Interesting, she said to herself. She opened the desk drawer and found standard Academy learning tablets loaded with basic curriculum materials. She also found some styluses, a few sheets of physical paper, and what looked like repair manual for the room's environmental systems. Very interesting, she said, picking up the repair manual. She sat on the bed and looked around the room one more time. Then she grinned. Finally, she said, some space to work. Back in his office, Dean Vextar was reviewing Zara's academic file. Her test scores were good but not exceptional. Her previous schools had noted her as creative but disruptive and intelligent but doesn't follow instructions well. This should be straightforward, he told himself. A few weeks of isolation and she'll be ready to follow proper procedures. He had no idea what he had just done. In room 117, Zara was already sketching ideas on paper, using the repair manual to understand how the basic systems worked. Her human brain was making connections that no academy designer had ever considered. The detention was supposed to break her spirit and teach her obedience. Instead, it was about to give her exactly what she needed to change everything. 3 days into her detention, Zara had completely mapped out Room 117's systems. The environmental control panel was connected to the station's main atmospheric network. The food dispenser had basic manufacturing capabilities for creating nutritional pastes and liquids. The light panel could be adjusted not just for brightness but also for different wavelengths. Most importantly, she had discovered that the repair manual was not just for her room. It covered the entire sub-level 7 section, including systems that had been abandoned when the Academy expanded upward decades ago. Maintenance Request Form 2847B, she read aloud from the manual. Standard procedures for non-critical system repairs and supply requisitions. It turned out that detention students were allowed to request basic maintenance supplies if something in their room broke. The system was automated and hadn't been updated in years. Zara suspected no one had bothered to think about what a creative human might do with access to standard maintenance supplies. She started small. She submitted a request for replacement styluses, claiming hers were broken. The system delivered a box of 12. She requested backup paper supplies in case the originals got damaged. More supplies arrived. She reported that her environmental control panel was making strange noises and might need spare parts for diagnostic purposes. Within a week, Zara had accumulated what amounted to a basic engineering toolkit, without breaking any rules. Everything she requested was perfectly legitimate according to the Academy's maintenance protocols. Now came the fun part. The food dispenser was essentially a simple 3D printer that created meals from basic nutrients. Zara discovered she could reprogram it to create other things besides food. The styluses contained conductive materials that could be reshaped. The paper was made from a polymer that became moldable when heated, using the environmental controls to generate precise temperatures and the light panel to provide specific wavelengths of energy. Zara began building. Her first creation was a basic communication device made from reprogrammed food dispenser components and reformed stylus materials. It wasn't fancy, but it could pick up the Academy's internal communication frequencies. Listening to the Academy's daily announcements and maintenance chatter, Zara learned about the station's layout, scheduling, and operations. She also discovered something interesting. Sub-Level 7 wasn't as abandoned as everyone thought. Maintenance team to Sub-Level 7 Section G, came an announcement on day 10. Water recycling system needs calibration. Copy that. Heading down now? Came the reply. Zara realized that maintenance crews regularly worked throughout Sub-Level 7, even though students were never supposed to be there. The abandoned sections were still functional. They just weren't used for classes or dormitories. This gave her an idea. Using her communication device, Zara began monitoring maintenance schedules. She learned the patterns of when crews worked in different areas. More importantly, she discovered that the maintenance tunnels connected all the sections of Sub-Level 7, and some of them led back up to the main Academy levels. By day 15, Zara had built a second device, a basic fabricator that could create simple tools and components from repurposed room materials. The fabricator was made primarily from food dispenser parts, with heating elements from the environmental system and control circuits crafted from stylus materials. The fabricator allowed her to create more sophisticated tools, which she used to build better devices, which she used to create even more advanced equipment. Each generation of devices was more capable than the last. This is like the ultimate engineering puzzle, she said to herself, carefully assembling her latest creation. Her third major project was an AI assistant. Using the room's basic computer systems as a foundation, She created a simple but functional artificial intelligence that could help her manage her growing collection of devices and monitor Academy communications. "Hello, Zara," the AI said in a synthesized voice that came through the room's audio system. "I am now online." "Hi there," Zara said. "I'm going to call you Charlie. Can you help me map out the maintenance tunnel system?" "Certainly. Based on the maintenance communications we have monitored, I can create a basic layout of accessible routes throughout sub-level 7 and connecting passages to upper levels." Charlie's first map showed Zara something amazing. Sub-level 7 was huge. It contained dozens of rooms, workshops, storage areas, and connecting tunnels. Most of it had been abandoned when the Academy moved its operations to higher levels, but the infrastructure was still intact. "Charlie, what would happen if someone accidentally got lost down here and wandered into the wrong section?" Based on Academy protocols, maintenance crews would conduct a search and return the individual to their assigned area. However, if someone appeared to be conducting authorized maintenance or research, they would likely not be questioned. Zara smiled. "And what if someone was wearing what looked like maintenance clothing and carrying official-looking equipment? They would almost certainly be assumed to be authorized personnel." By day 20, Zara had created maintenance clothing from repurposed room materials and built a collection of tools that looked official enough to pass casual inspection. She also had a portable version of Charlie running on a device that looked like a standard Academy work tablet. It was time for her first expedition. The maintenance tunnels were exactly as Charlie had predicted. They were clean, well-lit, and clearly marked with signs indicating different sections and connections. Zara found it easy to navigate through the abandoned areas of sub-level 7. Her first stop was Section F, which according to the old station plans had been a fabrication workshop. When she opened the sealed doors, she found exactly what she hoped for: a room full of advanced manufacturing equipment that had been left behind when the Academy moved its engineering programs upstairs. "This is incredible," she whispered, looking at fabrication units that could create components at the molecular level. "Charlie, are these systems still functional?" Scanning. "Yes, all major systems appear to be in working order. They are simply in standby mode. Can you activate them?" "I can interface with the control systems. However, activation would require proper authorization codes." Zara grinned. "Good thing I've been listening to maintenance communications. I bet I can figure out the codes." It took 3 days of careful analysis, but Zara managed to crack the basic authorization protocols for the abandoned fabrication systems. The Academy's security was designed to keep students from accessing areas they shouldn't be in, but it hadn't been updated to account for a human who could reverse engineer their own access codes. With the fabrication workshop online, Zara's capabilities expanded dramatically. She could now create sophisticated devices, advanced materials, and precision components. Her little detention room became the control center for a growing network of reactivated systems throughout sub-level 7. But the most important thing she discovered was in Section J, a student lounge that had been abandoned but never sealed off. It had comfortable seating, work tables, and most importantly, it connected to the Academy's main data network. "Charlie, can you access the Academy's student directory through this connection?" "Yes, I can see all current student records, schedules, and academic standings." "Perfect. Can you identify students who are struggling academically or seem to be having social difficulties?" "Certainly. Based on grade patterns, disciplinary records, and social interaction data, I can compile a list of students who appear to be experiencing difficulties." Zara spent the evening reviewing the list Charlie generated. There were students from every species, all dealing with different problems. Some were failing classes, others were getting in trouble for not fitting in with their species' expectations, and some simply seemed lonely. "You know what, Charlie? I think it's time to start helping people." "How do you intend to do that from detention?" Zara looked around the abandoned student lounge, with its network access and comfortable seating, then thought about all the reactivated systems throughout sub-level 7. "Who says I'm still in detention? I think I'm running a business now." The next morning, Zara sent her first message through the Academy's student network. It was carefully crafted to look like it came from a legitimate academic support service. "Struggling with your studies? Need help understanding difficult concepts? Free tutoring available for all students in a private, judgment-free environment. Contact Academic Assist for more information." She had no idea how many students would respond. She certainly didn't expect what happened next. Within hours, her message system was flooded with requests from students across dozens of species, all asking for help with everything from homework to social problems to homesickness. Zara realized she wasn't just building devices in Sublevel 7. She was building something much more important, a community. And the Academy had no idea it was happening. The first student to find Zara's underground operation was Kix, a young Chitauri drone who had been rejected by his hive mind for being too independent. Chitauri were supposed to think and act as one unit, but Kix kept having his own ideas, which the hive found disturbing. He had responded to Zara's tutoring message because he was failing his group coordination classes. When he followed the directions she sent him, he ended up in a maintenance corridor that led to Sublevel 7. "Hello?" he called nervously as he entered the abandoned student lounge. "Is anyone here?" "Down here!" came a voice from somewhere below the floor. Kix looked around confused until a section of the floor slid back and Zara's head popped up from what appeared to be a hidden workshop underneath the lounge. "Hi, you must be Kix. Come on down. Watch the ladder." Kix carefully climbed down into a space that shouldn't have existed. It was a fully equipped workshop with fabrication units, computer systems, and devices he didn't recognize. The human girl who was supposed to be in detention was wearing maintenance coveralls and had grease on her hands. "Are you really a student?" he asked. "Yep, I'm Zara. I'm also technically in detention, but that's kind of a complicated situation now. You said you were having trouble with group coordination classes." For the next 2 hours, Zara helped Kix understand that being different from his hive wasn't necessarily a bad thing. She showed him how individual thinking could actually benefit group decisions, if it was applied correctly. "The thing is," she explained while tinkering with a device that looked like it was made from food dispenser parts, "your hive is good at making everyone think the same way. But that means you all have the same blind spots. If one person can think differently, they can spot problems the group might miss." "But the instructors say individual thinking disrupts hive harmony," Kix said. "Maybe it's not about disrupting harmony. Maybe it's about making the harmony more complex, like adding a new instrument to an orchestra." By the end of their session, Kix understood his coursework better and felt better about being different. More importantly, he offered to help Zara with her growing operation. "I may not think like other Chitauri," he said, "but I'm still really good at organizing systems and coordinating activities." "That would be amazing," Zara said. "I've got a lot of projects running and I could definitely use help keeping track of everything." The second student was Vera, a Vorthak whose perfect memory had been damaged in a shuttle accident. Vorthak society valued memory above everything else, and Vera was facing the possibility of being sent home in shame. Zara didn't just help her with memory techniques. She built her a custom external memory storage device that looked like jewelry, but could hold vast amounts of information and interface directly with Vorthak neural systems. "This is incredible," Vera said, testing the device. "It's like having my perfect memory back, but better because I can choose what to store and what to let go." "Sometimes forgetting things isn't a bug, it's a feature," Zara said. "Humans forget stuff all the time, and it helps us focus on what's important right now instead of being overwhelmed by everything we've ever experienced." Vera became Zara's first lieutenant, helping to coordinate the growing network of students who were finding their way to Sublevel 7. Word spread through unofficial channels. Students began hearing whispers about a place where you could get help without judgment, where being different was treated as valuable instead of wrong, and where impossible problems somehow got solved. Zem, a group of Nebulan students who were struggling because their species' natural speed was causing them to miss important details, learned how to slow down and focus. Zara taught them meditation techniques and built them environmental suits that helped them maintain a more solid form when concentration was needed. Thorpe, a young member of the rock-like granite species, was failing his courses because he couldn't keep up with the faster pace of academy life. Zara created a time management system that worked with his species' natural slower thought patterns and helped him find ways to contribute his deep, careful thinking to group projects. Each student who came for help ended up staying to help others. Zara's detention room became the control center for an operation that sprawled throughout Sublevel 7. Different sections became specialized for different activities. Section F was the main fabrication center, where Zara and her team built devices and solutions for student problems. Section J housed the main meeting lounge and coordination center. Section K became a quiet study area for species that needed different environmental conditions. Section M was converted into a communication hub that monitored Academy activities and helped coordinate the underground network. "Charlie," Zara said one evening as she reviewed reports from different sections, "how many students are we helping now?" "Current active participants number 347 across 23 different species," Charlie replied. "Additionally, we have 89 students providing various forms of support services, and 156 students who access our resources regularly, but are not directly involved in operations." "That's almost a quarter of the student body," Zara said, amazed. "Correct, and academic performance among participants has improved by an average of 34% since they began accessing our services." But Zara wasn't just helping students with academics. She was creating something that had never existed at the Academy before, a truly multi-species community. Traditional Academy structure kept species separate, with each group focusing on their particular strengths. But in Sub-Level 7, students learned to work together across species lines. Fourth-Act memory abilities combined with Nebulan speed created incredibly efficient research teams. Chitauri coordination skills helped organize complex projects involving multiple species. Granite species' careful thinking provided stability for more impulsive groups. The underground network operated on a completely different economy than the formal academy. Instead of grades and competition, it ran on cooperation and mutual aid. Students earned favor points by helping others and spent them on getting help with their own problems. The system naturally rewarded collaboration and generosity. Zara found herself at the center of it all, not because she demanded to be in charge, but because people kept coming to her for solutions to impossible problems. Her human ability to see connections between unrelated things made her incredibly good at finding creative solutions. "I need to get to Professor Yance's lecture, but it's at the same time as my required species-specific counseling session," one student complained. "No problem," Zara said. "Vera can attend the lecture and share her perfect memory of it with you later. Meanwhile, Kix can impersonate you at the counseling session using a holographic projector I built from food dispenser parts. That's actually brilliant, and probably completely against Academy rules. Only if we get caught," Zara grinned. "And we've gotten pretty good at not getting caught." The underground network had developed its own intelligence system. Students throughout the Academy reported on administrative activities, schedule changes, and potential threats to the Sub-Level 7 operation. Zara always knew when maintenance crews were coming, which professors were asking questions about student behavior, and when Academy security was conducting inspections. More importantly, she knew which students needed help before they even asked for it. "Dean Vextar is planning to increase dormitory surveillance," Kix reported during one of their evening coordination meetings, "and Professor Thane has noticed that his students are asking more complex questions than usual. Any sign they suspect what's going on down here?" Zara asked. "Not yet," Vera said. "They know something is different, but they seem to think it's just natural improvement in student performance." "Good. Let's keep it that way." But keeping their operation secret was becoming harder as it grew larger. Students were becoming more confident, more creative, and more willing to challenge traditional academy methods. The changes were starting to show in regular classes. Zara knew it was only a matter of time before someone in the academy administration figured out what was happening. When that day came, she wanted to be ready. "Charlie, start working on contingency plans. If we get discovered, I want to make sure our students are protected and our work continues." "What kind of contingency plans?" Zara looked around at the thriving community that had grown in Sub-Level 7. Students from dozens of species working together, helping each other, creating solutions that none of them could have developed alone. "The kind that turns a problem into an opportunity," she said. "If they want to shut us down, they're going to have to explain why helping students succeed is against academy rules." Above them, in the formal academy levels, professors were starting to notice that their students were performing better, asking better questions, and working together more effectively than ever before. They had no idea that the human they had put in detention was the reason why. That was about to change. The annual convergence ceremony was the most important event in the Academy's calendar. Students from all species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall to present their year's achievements and compete for academic honors. It was a celebration of tradition, order, and the Academy's success in developing the galaxy's finest, Minds, this year's ceremony was different from the very beginning. Dean Vextar noticed it immediately as he watched the student presentations. The projects were more creative, more innovative, and more collaborative than anything he had seen in his 3 centuries at the Academy. Students from different species were working together on complex problems, combining their unique abilities in ways that shouldn't have been possible. A team of Vorthak and Nebulans had developed a new approach to quantum computing that used perfect memory storage combined with high-speed processing. A group that included Chitauri, humans, and granite species had created a new method for deep space navigation that was both incredibly precise and remarkably simple to use. Most shocking of all, the students seemed genuinely excited about learning, rather than just focused on meeting requirements and avoiding mistakes. "This is highly irregular," Dean Vextar muttered to Assistant Dean Kohler as they watched a presentation by 6 students from 5 different species. "When did students start collaborating across species lines?" "I'm not sure, sir," Kohler replied nervously. "But the quality of work has improved dramatically this year. Academy-wide test scores are up 34%. Innovation indices have reached record highs. Interspecies cooperation is better than we've ever seen." "But that's impossible," Dean Vextar said. "We haven't changed any of our teaching methods or policies." As the presentations continued, Dean Vextar began to notice something else strange. Many of the students kept glancing toward a particular section of the hall and making small gestures that looked almost like salutes. But when he looked at that section, he only saw empty seats reserved for Academy staff. During the intermission, Dean Vextar cornered Professor Thane. "Have you noticed anything unusual about student behavior this year?" "Oh yes," Professor Thane said, his trunk appendages swaying with what might have been confusion. "My students ask the most interesting questions now. They want to know not just what happened in history, but why it happened and how it could have been different. They suggest alternative perspectives and challenge traditional interpretations. And you allow this? Well, their insights are often quite brilliant. Just yesterday, a young Chitauri proposed a fascinating theory about how cultural exchange might have prevented the Third Trade War. The analysis was remarkable." Dean Vextar felt his scales shifting toward an alarmed orange color. This level of independent thinking was exactly what the Academy's structure was designed to prevent. Students were supposed to learn established knowledge, not develop their own theories. The second half of the ceremony was even more disturbing. Student after student presented work that showed clear evidence of cross-species collaboration and innovative thinking. More importantly, they all seemed confident, happy, and eager to continue learning. The final presentation was made by a mixed group that included Kix, the Chitauri drone who had been sent to Dean Vextar's office multiple times for nonconformity, and Vera, a Vorthak whose damaged memory should have made her a failure. They presented a new educational methodology that combined different species' learning strengths to create more effective teaching approaches. Their research was thorough, their conclusions were sound, and their presentation was flawless. "Where did you develop this research?" Dean Vextar asked when they finished. Kix and Vera exchanged glances. "In our study groups, sir," Vera said carefully. "What study groups?" "Interspecies study groups are not authorized. The Academy has no specific policy prohibiting students from studying together," Kix said. "We researched the regulations thoroughly." Dean Vextar realized with growing alarm that the students were right. The Academy had never needed a policy against interspecies study groups because students had never shown interest in forming them before. After the ceremony, Dean Vextar called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. "I want a complete investigation into these unauthorized study groups. Find out who's organizing them and shut them down immediately." The investigation took less than 24 hours. What they discovered made Dean Vextar's scales turn completely black with shock. "Sir," Assistant Dean Kohler said, his forehand shaking as he delivered his report, "we've traced the study groups to an extensive operation being run from Sublevel 7. Sublevel 7 is abandoned except for maintenance areas," Dean Vextar said. "That's what we thought too. But sir, someone has reactivated large sections of the level and established what can only be described as an alternative educational facility. That's impossible. Who would have the knowledge and resources to do such a thing?" Kohler looked even more nervous. "According to our investigation, the operation is being run by the human student you placed in detention, Zara Chen. Dean Vextar stood up so quickly that his chair fell over backward. The human is supposed to be locked in room 117. She is, sir, technically. But she appears to have expanded her operations considerably. Dean Vextar stormed out of his office, followed by a security team. If the human thought she could make a fool of him and the academy, she was about to learn otherwise. The trip to Sublevel 7 was like descending into an alien world. The corridors that should have been dark and abandoned were brightly lit and bustling with activity. Students from different species moved through the halls carrying devices that looked like they had been built from academy materials, but served completely new purposes. "Halt," Dean Vextar commanded as they encountered a group of students in the main corridor. "What are you doing in this restricted area?" A young nebulan, its gaseous form shifting to nervous yellow patterns, floated forward. "We're attending evening study sessions, sir. All activity is authorized under Academy Regulation 847J, regarding student-initiated academic enrichment programs." Dean Vextar had never heard of Regulation 847J, but the student seemed confident it existed. He made a mental note to investigate that later and continued toward room 117, but when he reached room 117, he found that it was just the beginning. The door was open, and the small detention cell had been connected to a series of other rooms and corridors. Dean Vextar followed a passage that led to what had once been an abandoned student lounge, but was now a bustling command center. And there, in the center of it all, sat Zara Chen. She wasn't in the detention cell where she was supposed to be. She was sitting in what could only be described as a throne made from repurposed academy furniture, wearing a crown crafted from discarded circuit boards and holding what appeared to be a scepter made from fabricator components. Around her, students from a dozen species were reporting on various activities, asking for advice and generally treating her like a queen. "Dean Vextar," Zara said cheerfully when she spotted him. "Welcome to Sublevel 7. How do you like what we've done with the place?" Dean Vextar was too shocked to speak. The human was supposed to be isolated, broken, ready to submit to academy authority. Instead, she was clearly running some kind of underground kingdom. "You are supposed to be in detention," he managed to say. "I am in detention," Zara said. "You sentenced me to Sublevel 7 and here I am. You never said I couldn't improve the facilities. You were supposed to be alone, learning discipline, following rules." "Oh, I've learned a lot about rules," Zara said, gesturing to a wall covered with charts and documents. "Did you know the Academy has over 50,000 regulations? Most of them haven't been updated in centuries, and a lot of them contradict each other. I've been working with my legal research team to identify all the loopholes and inconsistencies." "Legal research team?" "Students from the Policy Studies program. Turns out they're really good at finding ways to work within existing regulations to accomplish new goals." Dean Vextar looked around the bustling command center. Students were working together on projects, sharing knowledge across species lines and clearly enjoying themselves. It was everything the Academy's structure was designed to prevent, but it was also producing better educational outcomes than the formal system. "This is all unauthorized," he said weakly. "Actually," Zara said, standing up from her throne, "it's all completely within Academy regulations. We've been very careful about that. Would you like Vera to recite the specific regulations we're operating under? Her memory is perfect." Vera stepped forward and began reciting a complex series of Academy regulations that technically allowed student-initiated educational programs, authorized the use of abandoned facilities for academic purposes, and permitted collaborative research projects across species lines. Dean Vextar realized with growing horror that the human had found a way to completely circumvent the Academy's authority while technically following all the rules, but this undermines everything the Academy stands for, he said. "Does it?" Zara asked. "Your students are performing better than ever. They're happier, more creative, more collaborative. They're learning faster and retaining more. Isn't that what education is supposed to accomplish? The Academy operates on order and tradition." "The Academy operates on helping students reach their potential," Zara interrupted.